So the first thing I'm going to talk about, and it does kind of come up quite a bit in my other classes, is the quick access toolbar. So just to quickly go through this, the quick access toolbar is going to be found in pretty much every Microsoft Office product that you use: PowerPoint, Outlook, Word, Excel. And it's up on the top left, and it's really easy to miss because it's very small and unobtrusive, but it's meant to hold the things that you need to quickly access, hence the name Quick Access Toolbar. So it comes defaulted with a few commands that it thinks you might use, but I just want to mention other ways to add to this because I do find it to be very helpful to save you time. So on the right of this Quick Access Toolbar, if I click the drop down, it gives me a few other options. I cannot believe that they don't default to having new and open on there because, you know, that's a pretty commonly used command. Things like print preview, spelling and grammar, all you have to do is select from the list and it would add it to the toolbar. If you decide you don't want it later on, you decide, oh, that's just cluttering up space and I never really use it, you would just go back into the drop down, choose it again, and it removes it from the list. That list is very short though. If you find yourself often using commands that are buried in one of these other tabs, I highly recommend moving those to the Quick Access Toolbar. The way I find most efficient to work in any Microsoft product is to stay on the Home tab, which has most of your commonly used commands. And then if you go over here for one thing, instead of having to click back and forth, just add it up to your Quick Access Toolbar. So for example, let's say that I'm constantly inserting tables. So if I'm on the Insert tab and I right-click on top of that button, I can choose Add to Quick Access Toolbar, which is the very top option, and up it goes to the toolbar. And it actually, because it is a drop-down, it adds the entire drop-down. So if there's anything in here that you decide you want to add, you just right-click it. You know, maybe go into margins really often. Add to Quick Access Toolbar. Anybody want to take a stab as how you get it off once you've added it there? Right-click, yes. So if I right-click up on the Quick Access Toolbar on something I added, the very first option then is Remove. So it's very easy to add and remove things. And I do recommend playing around with this because eventually you'll get everything you want on the Home tab and up there, and you don't have to keep bumping tab to tab going, where was that thing buried? It just makes things a little bit easier. Something else I wanted to mention is recent documents. So if I go to File, to Open, it's going to show the recent documents. And what you might not have noticed is that when you hover over these recent documents, on the far right side, when you hover over one, you get what looks like a push pin. If I click on this push pin, it's going to make that a pinned document, and that means a month from now, a week from now, if that's a document I come back to over and over, I can just find it right there. So I don't have to browse and go 6 folders deep. It's going to stay pinned at the top. So you might want to pin the 5, 6, 10 documents that you're in most often so you can quickly get to them. And depending on your version of Word, this one apparently not, but depending on your version of Word, up here it'll have documents and folders, and you can also pin the folders that you use most frequently. So if you find yourself going back to the same folder over and over, you can pin that folder. This particular version doesn't have it. But there you go. And if you decide later on, I don't work on that document anymore, that project's over, whatever, in your pin list, if you come back to the push pin and unclick it, it'll take it off the pin list. But again, it's just another way to save you a bit of time. And because I am that lazy, instead of going to File to Open, if you added that Open option from the Quick Access Toolbar to your toolbar up here, when I click on the Open button on the Quick Access Toolbar, it jumps me right there. So it's one click instead of the File Open, just to save a bit of time. Okay, another thing I wanted to mention, probably most of you know this, but just to throw it out there in case you haven't ever bumped into it, there are times when you might want to convert your Word document to a PDF. Maybe you're sharing it with people, you're not sure if they have Word, he doesn't, but if you want to have it as a PDF for some reason, that's very simple to do. You would just go to File, Save, and then wherever you decide to save it, let's just save it there, you can hit the drop down and choose PDF. You can also do the same thing by doing Save As and Browse. There's another one of those version things that depending on which version you're on, the Save As might show up here, and then your Save As type will be up there. But just keep in mind that your Save As type, just change it from Word document to PDF, and then it'll convert it to a PDF for you. So it used to, I remember, this is going to date me a little bit, but I remember years ago, you'd have to go through this long process or you have to pay Adobe a ton of money to get to do that. Now it's just built right into the Save menu, which can be nice. Something else I wanted to mention is screenshots. So if you're looking at the handout in front of you, I use this a lot. That's where all those pretty pictures came into play. So if there's something on your screen that you want to stick into your Word document, maybe you're making a reference document like the handout, things like that, you can do that with screenshots. So to go to screenshots, go to the Insert tab, and there is a drop down for screenshot. It's going to show all the open windows that I have. So if I want the entire window, I would click on that and it would dump the whole window in. Usually I don't want the whole window, I just want a part of it. So let's say that this particular website is really important and I need to grab something off of it. I'm going to go back to that Insert, Screenshot, but instead of choosing from the open windows, down at the bottom I'm going to choose Screen Clipping. When I do that, that document will disappear and whatever was directly behind it becomes available. If you had multiple screens at your desktop, you could also go to one of the other screens. Once you see the crosshairs, you just simply click and drag, and whatever you click and drag and highlight gets dumped into your document. This saves a ton of time. So if you used to do the print screen, crop, 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 just do the screen clicking. It's a lot quicker. The only one thing to remember about that is it's whatever's directly behind this. So you know, I had the Internet Explorer open directly behind this. If it was another Word document, you just need to make sure that whatever you want, you kind of look at and then come back to this document so that when you go to Insert, Screen Clipping, it was whatever was directly behind this, if that makes sense. And because, again, I like to really, really optimize my time, that is one of the things that I went into and added to my quick access toolbar. Now, right now, the drop down for that is added in, but you can also actually go into the drop down. And since I use screen clipping pretty much always, not the drop down, I just right click, say add to quick access toolbar, and now I have the button for that. Okay, so that's screen clipping. Again, insert, screenshot, screen clipping. And that's all in your handout. Okay, another time saver is auto text. So if you have maybe a paragraph, a page of things that you use often in various Word documents, you can create what's called auto text entries. My mother was in the legal field for like decades, and they lived by this because you just use the same phrases over and over. So let's say that you have a paragraph, a sentence, whatever that you use often. You would highlight it, go to Insert, and Quick Parts, and Auto Text, and then down at the bottom you'll find Save Selection to Auto Text Gallery. It's going to pop up with the first few words of the auto text. I would leave that alone. You could rename it to something else if you want. Just make sure that it's saved in the normal.dotm, which should come up by default. You say, okay. So now, let's say a week from now, I open up a Word document, I start typing that same phrase. As soon as I start typing it, it goes, oh, I know that. And so I just hit Tab or Enter, and it inserts the entire paragraph or sentence for me, or multiple paragraphs if that's what you had saved. And that's why I leave that name alone, because it's the beginning of the sentence that you're typing, it'll recognize it, and then it dumps it in. If for some reason it's not popping up and starting to fill it in, you can always go to Insert, Quick Parts, Auto Text, and there's the auto text that I saved. Of course, I'm sure you're going to see where I'm going with this. I would add that to the quick access toolbar if you use it a lot, because why go to the Insert tab and do multiple clicks? If at some point you decide I don't really use that anymore, I need to get rid of it, you would just go back to where you had entered it. You do a right click and then say Organize and Delete. It's going to take you into a window with a ton of stuff because Word builds in a whole bunch of this as just default. You would just find yours, so this text is, and delete it in there. So again, that was Insert, Quick Parts, Auto Text. Okay, one of the things I wanted to mention also is if you're one of those super fortunate people who are in Word reading really long documents a lot, you might want to consider changing your view when you have to read something that's really long and you're going to be in there for a while. It might just help with eye strain. So to do this, we'd go to the View tab, and then we're going to go to Read Mode. And in the Read Mode, you can go to View, Page Color, and you can either do like sepia or inverse. And it might just save your eyes a little bit. I have this like on my Kindle at home. I inversed it, and it just helps my eyes from getting tired. So, and the nice thing about this is that it's just for you for reading. It's not like it's going to print like this. It's just your view of the document when you need to read something long. If you're in the read view and you need to get out, down here at the bottom, you'll see I'm in read mode. You can go back to print layout, which is what you're used to working with. And notice again, it goes back to the regular color. So you can switch into it from that also. I went to the view tab, but as in anything with Microsoft, there's 16 different ways to get to the exact same place. So we're just gonna click on read mode, that would get me back, and click to print layout to return to where you were. Something else I wanted to mention down there where those two buttons are is the zoom slider, which can be nice. So if I zoom out, I can see more of my Word document. Sometimes I want to see a couple pages next to each other, or if the text is really small for some reason, or there's a screenshot of something that's really small, I can zoom in really close. So the zoom slider is just a quick way to zoom in and out of your document. If you want to put it back to 100, you aim for the middle. If your aim is not great, like mine, you can always click on the number and choose the percentage in here too, which is already at 100. So one of those lovely little tools that they like to hide down there at the bottom where nobody's going to notice it. Okay, so the next few things I want to mention are just kind of some shortcuts. So most people probably know that if you click and drag, that selects text in Word. But if you want to kind of save yourself from, in case you didn't quite get what you wanted, you can double click and that'll select whatever word you're on. If you triple click, that'll select the paragraph. If you're in the middle of a paragraph, if you hold down your control key and left click, it'll select the sentence in the paragraph. And then of course you can always select in the margins too to grab the whole thing. So if I'm clicking and dragging in the margins, that'll select the entire thing. And then if you want the entire document, maybe the document came in with some different colors and you're like, no, I want it all to be black because that's just easier for me to read or whatever. Control A on the keyboard selects everything. And those are all in your handout. So just different ways to select things. Once you have something selected, if you want to move it, of course you can do cut and paste if you're familiar with the cut and paste tool. But I just also wanted to mention that if you want to move something, once you have it selected, if you click and hold on it and then just drag it, it'll just move it for you. If for some reason you have something that you want to use again someplace else in the document, when I'm clicking and dragging, if I hold down Control, you'll kind of see this tiny little plus sign show up next to the arrow. That means it's going to copy it. So if I let go, instead of a move, it becomes a copy. So select drag to move, select drag with Control will copy whatever you have selected. And here's something I just learned recently. I think they call it the splice or something like that. You can actually grab various parts of your Word document to paste someplace else. So if you could obviously always just copy a word or a paragraph and paste it, but if you have different things in different places and you need to move all that to a different place of your Word document, you can use F3 to do that. So let's say I've got this paragraph selected. I'm going to hold down Control and F3, and it cuts it. So this is not a copy, this is definitely a cut. It all disappeared. And let's say, okay, yeah, that, and I need this too, so I'm gonna do F3 again, and then, yeah, maybe this. Obviously, this is just random stuff, but if I needed to grab different pieces from the document and then say, okay, now that I've got all that, I need to put it right here. Once you've done your Control F3 to grab everything you want, to paste it, you do a Control Shift F3, and it puts all those little pieces that you grabbed into one place. So if you need to reorganize, that can be a little bit faster than cut, paste over and over. Just keep in mind that it is a cut, not a copy. Okay, something else I wanted to mention is the Shift Enter. So when you're, especially, I usually use this for bullets. If you're on a bullet and you hit Enter, it's going to do another bullet. I'm just going to do a Control Z to undo that. Sometimes I want my line on the next one down under a bullet, but I don't want it to be a bullet. That's when your Shift Enter is helpful. It's what they call a soft enter. So it'll put you down on the next line so you can put something else in before you do your next bullet. So if you just need to want to bump down but not create an extra bullet, that's what the Shift Enter can do for you. On the other hand, if you do a Control Enter, that will add a page break. So if you're down to the bottom of your Word document and you want your next paragraph to start on the next page, but you don't want to hit enter, 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 just do Control Enter and it'll bump down to the next page. Okay, let's see. So some other shortcuts that may come in handy at some point. Let's say that for whatever reason you had some text that came in that you want to make uppercase or lowercase, etc. Word has that built in to make it really easy. So on the Home tab, in what's called the font group, you'll see this double A here. And so I can say I want this all to be lowercase, or I need it to be uppercase, or I can capitalize each word, or I could say sentence case, which would put whatever at the beginning of the sentence to be capitalized only. But if you get something that you maybe copied from the web or copied from somebody, it's all caps, and that's not really what you want to have in here, rather than retyping it all, just use the change case option. Okay, now when it comes to formatting, if you need to format your text to look similar, rather than doing it over and over again, you can actually use what's known as a format painter to copy your formatting and apply it in multiple places. So let's say that for whatever reason I need it to be really large and bold and italics or whatever. And I decided that I have various words that are all over this document that need to be the same way. Rather than going to each word and going through those same 3 steps, what I would do is put my cursor in the formatting that I want, go up to this format painter in the top left, turn that on, and you'll kind of see with my cursor there's like a little paintbrush. Now if I click on something else, it's going to paint that formatting. And it just does it once when you click it once. But now if I double click, it's going to stay on and just kind of keep going. Wherever I click, it's going to add that. And you can click and drag to select more than one. When you're done and you don't want to paint anymore, you just go back up, click it once, and that turns it off. So a single click to apply it once, a double click to leave it on until you turn it off. If you have really had way too much fun with your document and you applied a bunch of formatting that you really didn't mean to, you may at some point want to erase the formatting. So to do that, you could just select the text, and up here in that same font group that we talked about earlier, there's an A with an eraser, and that would get rid of the formatting for you and put it back to no formatting. And missed a couple. Just in case somebody went crazy with the formatting before they sent you what you want to work on. Something else that is easy to miss, most of us, I would believe, are familiar with the replace function. So if I go up here to replace, I can say, you know, maybe this isn't used anymore. Maybe it's a different thing. I don't know. You can replace that text with something else and go through the document and say, every time you find that word, replace it with this word. Maybe somebody had a name change and you don't need to do that throughout the entire 20-page document. So obviously you can change the word itself, but you can also change the formatting. So if you decided that maybe I want to leave this word the same, I just want it to be formatted differently throughout the entire document. If you go down to More, and then down here in the Replace With, where I put the same text, I'm going to say Format, Font, and then let's say that I want to make it bold and italic every place I find it. And you'll notice it says what it's going to do up here. And I'm just going to say Replace All. Wow, that was mentioned a lot in this document. And so now every time it finds that, oh, no, that was my mistake. What I copied had a space after it, and I put one in without a space. And that's where undo comes in really handy. So if I put that space back in, replace all, and then it's going to go through and find that and add that in. So if you want to change the formatting on a certain word or a certain phrase throughout the entire document, and Format Painter is just going to take too long, you can actually use Replace to do that. Just keep in mind it'll kind of remember that. So the next time you want to use your Replace in the same document, you might want to turn this off. And to do that, I would just put my cursor down here in the Replace With where it's showing the font and the formatting, and then just say no formatting, and that gets rid of it. Okay. By the way, I forgot to do my standard thing at the beginning that if anybody can't hear me or if you have any questions, feel free to, yell at me. Karen, hey lady, whatever. If you like something, feel free to, give me a thumbs up too. Just like to know you're all still awake out there. All right, so unless we have any questions, we'll just keep on going. The next thing I wanted to mention is headers and footers. So To get into headers and footers, of course, there's 16 different ways to do it. The easiest I find is if your arrow is over where the footer normally is, whether it's a blank document or not. If I double click, it'll take me into the footer. Same thing, whereas if I'm hovering over where the header is, I double click will take me right into the header. To get out of it, you can either say close header footer up here on the toolbar, or just double click in the body, so down below the header or above the footer. That'll get you in and out. What comes up quite often is you'll have a document that's multiple pages and you don't want every page to have the same footer or every page to have the same header. And so one way to do that then is to kind of break them apart. And what you need to do is, so let's see, and just scroll up here. Let's say from here on down, I want the footer to be different than what's above it. Actually, I think this one might already have it set. So let's go with the blank document. So using my control enter that we learned earlier, there's my super long 2-page document. And let's say, normally I would have, okay, so this is my footer. And I noticed that it shows up on both pages. If I didn't want it on the second page, what I need to do is break the document apart. And to do that, I'm going to go to, layout, breaks, and then I'm just going to do a continuous section break. So I don't necessarily want to bump this onto a new page. I could do that also, but I'm just going to say continuous. Doesn't look like anything happens, but this now is broken into the section before and the section after. And now that we have that in place, if I go into my footer, down here below, it's currently linked to previous. So as soon as I went into my footer, I get a new tab here and it says link to previous. I can deselect that so it's not, and put a new footer in. Now, this one is what I originally had, and this one could be something different. So if you need to do that with your headers or your footers, just keep in mind section breaks will get you there. Once you got the section break in, you'll find that button for link to previous. Okay, any questions? All right, we'll flip on over to the other page here. Talk about the navigation pane next. All right, so let's open up a different document here. This should look familiar. Normally when you open up Word, it defaults to having the navigation pane on, but if for some reason it didn't, you can always turn it on by going to the View tab and ticking Navigation Pane. If you ever do a Control F for Find, it will automatically pop that up because that's what they want you to use for Find. And as I mentioned, you can use this for Find. So if I needed to find certain words, let's see, the text, that should be in there quite a bit. When I enter into the search bar down here below, I'm going to click on results, and it'll actually show you every place that word shows up, and you can just click through it. It's kind of nice because it gives you a preview of where it is in the sentence. You're like, oh, this is the one I was looking for. You click on that, it jumps you down to it in the document. When you don't want to look anymore, so you don't necessarily want it highlighted yellow, just come back up to the search bar and hit the X, and it'll wipe out the text that you were searching for. The other reason I like to use navigation pane is for headings. So each one of these bolded areas is a heading in my document, and that allows me to move things around really easily. So if you notice over here on the navigation pane, it knows all my headings. If I'm come back later and decide, you know, this needs to be up further, instead of copying and pasting it, I can just click on the headings, drag and move it up, and it moves that entire section for me. If I want screenshots to be down here, I can click and drag and move it down. So if you have a long document, maybe like a grant proposal or something like that, and you just want to quickly reorganize stuff, by using headings, you can work in this pane instead of the 40-page document on the right-hand side. It just makes things a little bit easier. In order to use that, though, you do need to use headings. So to create headings, you would, on the Home tab, you'll find the Styles area, and it'll show heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. You would just select whatever text you want to be, you know, heading 1, and then it'll default to whatever it decides is proper formatting for that heading, but you can always change it if you don't like what it's doing. So if I were to right-click on this, I could choose Modify, and then I could come in here and say, I want it to be a smaller font size, I don't want it to be bold, whatever. And then that way, when you use that heading in this document, it'll be whatever you want it to be. So again, to create headings, you would need to select your text and then come to the Home tab to the Styles area and apply the heading format to it. And if you want to make your very own style, you can do that by going to the drop down over here and create a style. You can name your style whatever you'd like it to be, modify, and pick all the different formats you want it to be. So ton of stuff there that could probably be its own class, but that's just to get you started so that if you want to apply headings so that you can use this navigational feature, it's there for you. The other thing that's nice about using headings is then you can create a table of contents very easily. So because I have headings designated, let's say I'm going to come up here and obviously would put a table of contents for a 2-page document. But if you had something longer that you wanted a table of contents for, you would go to the References tab, the table of contents drop down, and then choose whichever one you'd like to do. I'm just going to go with the default at the top, and it drops in all the ones with the that I had made a heading. Just keep in mind that if you use table of contents and then you rearrange your document, so for example, mail merges down at the bottom, if I decide that I want mail merge up at the top, and then I go back up to my table of contents, it still shows it as down at the bottom. So you need to update it whenever you kind of rearrange your document. And to do that, if you click inside the table of contents, you get Update Table up here. You also have it up here on this tab. Multiple places to do the same thing. And it asks, well, do you want to leave the order the same and just update the page numbers? Now I'm going to update the entire table. And now mail merge goes up to where it actually is in the document. So if you decide to add one, just keep in mind, if you change things after you've added it, you're going to want to update that so it reflects the changes. If at some point you decide, I don't want that anymore, I want to get rid of the table of contents, if you're in the table of contents and go to References, table of contents, down at the bottom is Remove Table of Contents, not get rid of it for you. And again, that's all in your handout. Okay, the rest of the class I'm going to devote to mail merge because I've got a couple different examples to talk about here. If you've been working in Word for a while, you've probably recognized mail merge as something that was really, really common when you needed to send out a bunch of letters to somebody. So you had 200 people who needed to get a form letter and you wanted to have the address change at the top to be for that person. So you would mail merge, and then when you went to print it out, it would have the different name at the top and Dear Mr. So-and-so or Dear Mrs. So-and-so. But there's a lot of other things you can do with mail merge that you might just not have thought of. So I wanted to mention a few of these options. I did this actually really recently when we had to do I think it was UM1 or something, but some type of grant renewal or something like that. There was a table they sent to us that we had to fill out the same information for like 30 or 40 different protocols or trials that we were working on. And rather than type it all in or copy and paste it, we used mail merge for that. It wasn't so much that we were going to print out and send a bunch of letters, but it was letting the computer do the work to combine the information that we could then copy into the Word document that we sent off to the grant. So just to give you an example of what that would look like, let's see here. Ooh, I jumped into reading pane. Oh, there we go. So this is the table that we got that we needed to fill out the same information over and over for different ones. And to bring in the data, what we needed to do was have it in an Excel document. You can actually use like different things, but the Excel document is definitely the norm. So for example, we had our list of trials, which I've of course fakeified for class here. Super creative titles for his, so we had a spreadsheet that had, the title of the protocol, whether it was a combination or single drug, what disease site, what phase, blah, blah, blah. So having that saved in Excel, we were able to use Word to merge it together. So with my document, in order to bring that over, what I would do is I would go to Mailings, start mail merge, and there's, again, a lot of different ways to do this. I could go straight into letters. I'm going to use the wizard because it does try to help you step by step, and I'm all about being helped. So I chose the Start Mail Merge to Mail Merge Wizard, and then what type of document. I'm not doing labels to stick on envelopes. I'm going to leave it as letters. I say Next. And it says, do you want the current document you're looking on, or are you starting a new document? Nope, it's the one that I'm looking at. So yes, I want to leave it as current document. And the next thing you want to do is select your recipients. So again, you're going to go to an existing list, and this one's in Excel. So I hit browse, and then I need to go find where I saved my Excel document. It pops up and says, oh, yeah, there's a sheet 1. Is that what you want? Yes. Okay. And it brings up a nice big thing of, here's your entire Excel document. You could do a lot in here if you really wanted to spend the time filtering, sorting, saying, I don't want this one to be included, whatever you want to do in there. I usually just leave it alone because that Excel document is exactly what I want to use. So I say, okay. So now that I've said, okay, that's the data I want to bring in, the next thing I need to do then is write your letter, step 3 or step 4. Okay, so at this point, basically, I'm going to get rid of that, give myself some more space. We need to say where we want the information to show up. So this particular one, we actually had some boxes that we didn't have that we could dump it into an Excel document. So I'm just going to start with study title. Here on the mailings tab, I'm going to put my cursor here and go to insert merge field, too tight, and choose title. And this list here is coming from that first row in Excel. And so it's very important that you make sure that the first row in Excel has your headings, has the titles of the information that you want to use. So I put in title, and then let's see, here I'm going to put in drug count. I'll put in the phase. I'm not going to remember. Here, first on study, or wait, let's try that again. I'm just going to put in a few of them, not the whole thing here. But so you go through and you add in all the different pieces that you want. And then once you got that done, you could just leave it like this and it'd be 1 on each page. I kind of wanted more than 1 on a page because we're going to put it together in one Word document. So once I've had, let's assume, all the things put in there. So once you would do that, you would copy whatever it is that you have. So I'm going to copy that entire table. I'm going to give it a space. We wanted them not to kind of merge together into one giant table. Paste it. But what you need to do is add one more piece, which basically tells the Word document this is the next line in Excel. So I would go before my first option here that I put in the title, and then I go to rules. And again, this is all in the handout I gave you. And I say next record. So by putting that next record, it tells Word, okay, now go to the next line. Now go to the next line. Now that I have that in there, I'm actually going to copy that again, and I'm just going to kind of fill in my Word document. So I'm going to put 4 in, and so each one of those has next record. And then even though this is only 4 and the Excel document is like 30 or 50, it'll know to kind of start over again and just keep going. So once I have that done and I've added all the different pieces that I want in there and put in the next record, then we can kind of see what it looks like. Kind of get a preview of what this is going to look like. So to do that, on the mailings tab again, you have preview results. So if I say preview results, it shows me what it's going to be pulling in, and I can see that it's, you know, different ones down the line. I'm only going to show you the first 4, but if you use this here, you can kind of keep scrolling through if you really want to see all of them. Once you've looked it over and you're like, oh, I didn't forget anything, the spacing's fine, everything looks great, and you're ready to actually bring the data in, you could go to finish and merge print. I highly don't recommend that because I'm just really, really cautious. I like to see exactly what it's going to look like before I do anything with it. And especially for this example, we weren't printing it. We were copying it into another Word document. So what I'm going to do is actually say finish and merge, edit individual documents. And what that's going to do, it asks, do you want just this current record, certain ones, you know, 1 through 10, whatever. I'm going to leave it as all. It's going to take the data, dump it into the Word document, and create a new Word document. So I have the old one that I was just working on, but this is a brand new document. And now if I scroll through this, you'll see that it's got however many pages it took to bring all the information from Excel in. Every once in a while, you might want to double check the end. Here's a great example. It just worked out that there was 2, and then because there were 4 on each page, these 2 are empty. So in this case, I would just want to get rid of those empty ones that didn't pull anything in. but now I have all my tables. I could save this, send it to the person who's going to then upload it into the Word document for the grant. And this just saved a ton of time. So it's not just for letters. It can be for things, forms that you have to fill out over and over, whether it's a table or just a bunch of text all at once. Then I would just save this and be ready to go. But like I said, the nice thing about putting it into this is you can kind of tweak it if you want more spaces in between, if you need to get rid of some empty stuff, you've got the ability to do that. The other time that, that mail merge can come in handy is for sending emails. So when we first started posting these classes, people signed up, and thanks for that. In fact, so many people signed up that we started getting a little worried about the classroom we're going to put it in, because it only held 100 people. So when we started realizing that we had more interest than I was expecting, we decided to move the room. And what I wanted to do, luckily, is because people signed up on the web and gave their email addresses, I could contact people and say, don't show up at that room, we're not going to be there, come over here. And that's another thing where mail merge comes in handy, because it could take the information that we had from the web page and send out an email to everybody. So I just wanted to mention that too and show you an example of that. There you go. So it was a forum email, but I wanted it to be a little bit specialized so that if you signed up for just one of the classes, I was telling you this is the class you signed up for and here's the new room. If you signed up for 3, I would tell you about all 3, that kind of thing. Also, we couldn't get this room for all 5. So if somebody was going to come to a class, one of the classes here and one of the classes in the other one, I wanted to kind of let them know, look, don't expect it to be the same classroom because you'll end up in the wrong place. So I wanted a special note for that. So again, I had a Excel document that had all a whole bunch of extra gobbledygook that just downloads from the web. But most importantly, it had the email address. And then I used some Excel formula to say which classes were going to, the person had signed up to attend. And then I also put in an Excel formula to say, if they're attending a class in one room and a class in another room, give them that note that, by the way, classes are in different places. So this is the data that I wanted to pull into my document. And I'm just going to go through that same basic formula again, where I do the start, mail merge, step-by-step wizard. Yes, it's a letter. Yes, it's the current one. Go grab my list, which was for email. Yep, that's the correct one. No, I don't want to exclude anything. And then I would need to add in that text again. So I go back to insert, merge field, and I basically wanted to put in each of the classes. So, oops, I want to enter there. And then I also decided that I wanted that note to be up here. So that room note that I created, and I wanted it to be highlighted just to really call attention to it. So I could format the text that's going to be pulled in. And now if I preview this, the first person actually had signed up for all classes. I think she's part of the people that are helping host this. So she gets the note that's saying, hey, by the way, some rooms are different than others. And then it shows here's all the classes she signed up for. But then if I go down the road, some other people only signed up for 3. This person was coming to the one that was all in the same classroom, so I didn't feel like that note was necessary, so it was left off. And it just kind of changes depending on what the person signed up for. So once I had done that, put in my different fields using the insert merge fields, and I didn't need to use that next because each one is its own. So that next record that we did on the tables, I didn't need to do that here. At this point then, I could send the email, but again, being the overly cautious person that I am, I was like, what if it doesn't quite work the way I want? I blast this off to like 100 people and they go, I thought you were a computer expert. You really messed this up. Which poor Karen can attest to. I do that on a regular basis. I send emails to people on accident. So I do like to double check my work sometimes before I send things off. So what I actually did, and I really did do this, is I went through that and I thought, okay, close. But what I did was go to edit recipient list, or sorry, select recipients, use an existing list, and I changed it from the real list of people to a different list. And if I show you that list real quick here, what I did was I took some of the examples so I could see, is it correctly doing people who have 5 versus people who have 3, and then I just changed all the email addresses to myself. And so I could test it by sending it to myself and see what do they look like, are they coming across, did it do the note correctly, that kind of thing. And so then at that point, when I went to finish send email messages, I knew it was going to come to me as kind of a test, and then I could come back in here, pick the real people, and do it. So you might not be quite as cautious as me, but there is that option. If you want to test it, just replace the emails in your Excel document with your own, and you can send it to yourself first. I mean, I would shorten the list. I didn't want to send myself 100 emails. I picked like 5. So when you click on send email messages, though, it's not just going to go because it doesn't know where to send things. So what's obviously important is in the Excel document that you have, you need to have a column with an email address. This one kind of had a long name. It came straight from the website where you signed up. Please add your email address below. That was the name of the column. So when you go to actually email this, you need to tell Word where to find that email address. And this one, please add your email address below. And then you can put in a subject line, you know. It's going to be the subject line for the email. And then again, you could say you only wanted to send it for certain ones. Most likely you want to send it to everything, and then click OK, and it would send. And it would send one email to each person from your email account. And so again, if you did that to yourself, you'd get the 7 emails that you did, so you could look them over and then do the full thing. I have gotten the question before, and I Googled this, and it just is apparently not possible. If you have that email address here, some people want to be able to like put a semicolon or something and put more than one email address. It doesn't like that. It does not work. So it does need to be one email address. So if you needed to send it to multiple people, just copy the row and then put the second email address for the second one, if that makes sense. I don't believe so. I would have to double check, but I don't believe so. Because I'm mostly saying that because if you were, it would have to be in here. You'd have to tell it where the CC would be going. So
you actually have to build the letter in Word, not in an email.
Yeah, it's kind of strange that way. So
how does it know to ask for the email address?
Because you're telling it that you want to email the message versus print, that's where it knows. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a strange one because it's like, do I put this in the Outlook class or the Word class? It kind of crosses over, but you build it in Word and then you send it. Yes, ma'am.
From to, do you put like the line number, or does it take you there?
It doesn't take you there, so you would need to put in like, is it,
A1?
well, it's not A1, but it'd be rows. So, and because you have your headings, this would be considered row 1. It's a lot like the from to that you get when you print. Like when you go to print a document, it's page 2 through 16. That's what this is, kind of, but for rows. Yes, ma'am. What I would do is, if you have the ability to do that in Outlook, I would test sending it to yourself while you're logged in as them versus logged into yourself, or while you have them selected, because I'm guessing that depends on how you're logged into Outlook as to where it's going to come from. Does that make sense? So, any other questions on this one? It's a very powerful tool. I find it really helpful, and it's ironic. I had one for each example within the last couple months, and it just saved me a bunch of time because I'm sorry, I'm not writing 150 emails, but I'll do this. I did want to let you know where to go, but I just wanted it to be easy. And I just love the fact that you can customize it, that you didn't get a broad email address or broad email about all 5 classes if you're not coming to all 5 classes. So, all right, we're done a little bit early. So if you have any questions for me or want to ask me questions, feel free to come down. Otherwise, thanks for stopping by and have a great day.